we talking about?
We're going to freaking talk about your mind-blowing event. Hey, everybody. Welcome to an Anatomical Gangster little chat here.
Woohoo.
Live.
I've got the shirt.
What is happening? I'm here with Gil Hedley. I just saw the Nerve Tour.
Nerve tour. I took Sue on a nerve tour.
I mean, first of all, Gil, can we just talk about the pioneering work of your anatomy, your integral anatomy, and just the concept of integral anatomy? So maybe let's start there. Explain to people the difference between gross anatomy and integral anatomy.
Well, how about regional anatomy and integral anatomy?
Better.
Because we all do gross anatomy, which is just studying big stuff, like not microscope anatomy. But the regional anatomists are looking basically at, sectioning the body into parts and regions and naming those things. And I am not. I do that. I do that too. But the difference is I'm not taking the body apart so I can make parts that are things that I know. I'm doing it so that I can feel the continuity and connection between everything. So my interest is in relationship, continuity, connection, and whole body continuities, right? So, and even the continuities between us are interesting to me. I'm interested in a whole person. And so I try and do anatomy of the whole body and its continuities in the context of the whole person with a view to helping, if I'm going to learn parts, it's not because I care about those words or those things. It's because I'm trying to have an experience of that, right? I want to witness the inside so that it can be mine. I want my body. I want to get into it. I want my consciousness to infuse through every cell of this body. Then I can say I lived in it. If I just hanging around up here, floating around and never really get into it, why did I bother getting a body? I could have stayed in heaven.
That's right.
I do presume that's where I came from.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I think you're kind of hitting a topic also. There's Gil also usually has a bit of his poetry that you start particular parts of it with. And one of the things that, your poems hit on is this idea of the space between us. But really, I always feel like we are really all one. I know that it seems like when you're in suffering or something's happening, it's happening just to you. But I'm saying, well, we're all learning from it. So in fact, it's happening to all people around you because we're all having an experience with you. And in so many ways, that's the same thing with the way that you dissect, is that it's not a thing, it's how things connect to create something bigger than what meets the eye.
And there's so many lessons in there.
Yeah.
Life lessons are lying in wait for us to understand them. I mean, anything about connection I've learned from the body, because you can't get it apart. It doesn't want to come apart, so it must be together. It must not be in parts. Like you have to. That's like a mind trick, because we learned the name of words in our first anatomy course, and we learned these body parts. And I'm telling you, there's no body parts. There's just a body, and we turn it into parts, and that's a mental conception projected onto the body as opposed to what it is. I'm kind of interested in what it is, especially because here I am having a body experience and not a parts experience. So.
Well, and even if I look at myself right now, I see a hand, but if I looked at it under a microscope, I'd see billions and trillions of little cells creating the thing I'm seeing. And that is actually an interesting thing that you had brought up, and it was a point of this talk where you had talked about the eye. And I remember in one of the dissections that I did with you, I spent pretty much a whole day dissecting the eye. And it blows my mind that we're taking in whatever we're perceiving, this human construct, through a pinhole, which is then flipping it upside down. It's projecting it upside down in this big, and then my brain is decoding whatever those colors are, and now I'm seeing you.
Yeah. It's a consciousness painting.
Yeah.
And I paint you, beautiful Sue, and I don't know what you see. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And maybe we see with our hearts. Maybe, You know, because you keep seeing when your eyes are closed, you keep seeing when you're asleep. You know, you have dreams, and they can be very vivid. You're not using your eyeballs. I'm reading this amazing book right now on this dude who went blind when he was like 4 years old, and then, or 3 even, and then chemical burn, and then 42 years later, he had an operation
And he has his vision back.
Well, kind of,
right?
kind of, because it turns out that you're not. It's not about the health of your eyeball. It is if your eyeball's messed up, you're not going to see as well. But if you can have a perfectly healthy eyeball, because they gave this guy a perfectly healthy eyeball, but he couldn't put the world together with it because his brain hadn't formed the pathways of relationship and knowledge that are built up from the moment you first open your eyes. And it turns out that most of seeing is really about knowledge that you've acquired. In other words, knowledge about the way a sound changes when a car goes past you is added to the visual construct, so that you're like, oh, that's a car.
Exactly. They have these things where there's words up on a screen, and you're hearing, and you're seeing the words, and so your brain is now hearing those words, but that is not what is actually being said. And that kind of stuff is, you're right, it's where our own brain can play tricks on us because of what we perceive through our eyes or our ears.
Right, or focused attention. The left brain's expertise is focused attention. And so they did this crazy experiment where they asked people to watch this basketball game, and they were supposed to count some specific behavior of the basketball players, some way that they did when they took a shot or something like that. And then they had some dude, while these people are doing these observations, go across the court dancing around in a gorilla suit. After the experimenters ask him how many, whatever basketball shots did each player take, they ask, and tell us about the guy in the gorilla suit. They were like, what guy in the gorilla suit? They couldn't see it because they were focused, and he was out of their focal attention, not their visual field,
right,
but out of their mental focus. We see what we're focusing on. We're seeing what our brains can take in, not what's there.
We believe what we perceive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gil, many years ago, you had the Fuzz Tour. And I think
46 cities.
46 cities.
2017.
And made a whole bunch of people angry because.
What did I make them angry about that time?
I think
I don't make people angry enough to tell you I'm such a people pleaser, but I could, but I don't.
I think it raised controversy. So I just want to make sure my mic is there. I think it raised controversy over what fascia was and the connections of fascia. And I think that because it was, fascia wasn't fashionable back then, people weren't really talking about it. And so I think you, as being a huge pioneer to get the words out in a way where I think, people then thought the fuzz was like this bad stuff. And I'm like, no, wait a minute.
Yes,
it wasn't that right. It's just the collagen without the fluids. And so you're describing the connection, but boy, that...
I wanted to correct some of the misperceptions that came from the much beloved fuzz speech. Because sometimes people would be saying, oh yeah, I want to get rid of my fuzz. I'm like, I never said that. I didn't say get rid. I said melt your fuzz, not get rid of your fuzz. Right. You have to address the slipperiness of it, not make it go away. It belongs there. It's part of your body. It's the anatomical basis of differential movement. You ain't going anywhere without it. But the question is, what's its condition? What's its quality? And how can you facilitate that? So also, I found, coming up to that tour, that I found that discussions of fascia could get argumentative because people didn't really know, what fascia they were talking about. I'm like, what fascia are you talking about? They're not all the same. There's quite a continuum of tissue types within the typology of fascia. So I wanted to go out and show, on camera, different different type of fascia. So I talked about superficial fascia, perifascia, and deep fascia, or dense regular fibrous fascia, and then showed the continuum that they're on, because sometimes it's thick, sometimes it's thin, sometimes dense regular fibrous fascia has layer like this, or double, or triple, right? And those all have different functionality in the body, but they're, you know, they're kind of in their category until it's not, and when the body has that continuum in it. So I was just trying to help people see, before you go off about fascia and what this person is saying that's wrong, maybe you should find out what that person means by fascia and what this person means by fascia.
Well, and that's another thing, was I remember when I was in the midst of writing the book and then going out on this tour and trying to explain it, and I said, Gil, give me a really simple way to explain the difference between fascia and the extracellular matrix. And you simply said to me, if I can cut it with a blade, it's fascia. If I'm looking at it under a microscope, it's extracellular matrix.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because that's it, guys. Like the nomenclature of this connective tissue that we call fascia. The other thing is, fascia, as we're to understand it today, Robert Schleip would call it a sensory organ, 250 million sensory nerves living in fascia. So it is actually, and I remember you kind of calling it like an antenna, creating neuroelectrochemical superconducting information through my body.
Yeah.
But we could also consider it a system, because it's a system of stability. It's stabilizing you. It is a communication highway for, again, neuroelectrochemical signaling. It helps with hormone regulation and neurotransmission and metabolic processes. And so whatever the definition of it is, I think the problem that's happening in the fascial world today is they're trying to create a one definition fits all thing. And to me, I think that's the problem, is that we're trying to box something that actually is kind of like consciousness. We can't quite understand it because there's so much to it. Beyond, yes, it's a connective tissue because it connects everything, and there's all this other stuff.
Yeah. And we all try and talk about something, and you talk about it for a while, and then your understanding expands, and you gotta shift.
Well, and then you created that second tour when you came out from the, Beyond the Fuzz. What was it called? What was that second?
No second tour. I did.
Yeah,
this is the second tour.
But you did another.
Before I did the What's the Fuzz tour, I was touring a talk for years called Integral Anatomy Intensive. I did that for many years. Then I did.
That's what it was. It was that the What the Fuzz was kind of like your.
I did that out of your house in New York City.
Yeah.
You weren't there, and you gave me your keys,
Yeah.
and I did that Integral Anatomy Intensive in New York City.
In New York, right?
Thank you.
Well, but now, of course, my pleasure. But now we have the Nerve Tour, which I just saw yesterday, and I mean, again, Gil, it's you're like an enigma. I mean, it just is not.
Is that a good thing?
It's just not possible that someone could articulate the nervous system from the brain. He started in the brain and started with brain matter and the membranes, the dura mater, the pia mater, and then the cranial nerves, and then down, and we took a tour down the spine and through the periphery, the vagus nerve, super popular term. But tell me, like, what was it where you just decided when you reached out, you said, I'm going to dissect the nervous system? Why?
Well, I had spent 3 years on a project. And in that project, I very thoroughly dissected 2 forms, Anna and Z. I called it the Anatomy from A to Z project because it was Anna and Z. And I compared all of their tissues, all of the fascia, every named muscle tissue, as much of the vasculature and nerves as I could find and on the go, all their bones, all their organs, everything was on camera, on the table, come side by side. And I dissected it on camera. So a 3-year project. And when it was done, I was like, golly, you can't really demonstrate these biological textural layers in their continuity and do an amazing job on the nervous tissues. Yeah. They're mutually exclusive projects. You have to destroy one to show the other, or vice versa. So I was like, oh my gosh, at the end of the project, I was like, I have to do a whole other project just on the nerves. And so I knew in my mind there was no getting away from it once I thought it. It was like
I'm going to do
I
it.
have to. I have to do it. You know, I will. I can't go to. I can't go. I can't leave the planet without without doing that. Because what about all people who are interested in nerves? And our community doesn't know much about nerves, to be honest. If you go into yoga, Pilates, fitness, massage, we don't know that much about nerves. Right? You know your sciatic nerve, you know your median nerve, maybe.
Maybe.
It's not maybe. Yeah, it's not the heavy emphasis. It's more musculature. If you're really taking it far, you got fascia in there too, and then that's done. But what about the chiropractors, the physios, the
What
PTs,
about
the
the
OTs?
neurologists? I
What
got
about the
news.
neurologists?
I don't think that, I mean, it's interesting. It's just like, psychiatry. It's amazing how psychiatrists, they don't study the brain, they study behavior.
Behavior, yeah. We had a PhD in neurology at the talk yesterday.
Yeah.
He was 2 rows in, and he had a great time. So that made me very happy to know that even someone of that level of nerve study, A, was engaged by the talk, and B, he said we didn't really do the peripheral nerves
Yeah.
in his PhD program. They did the central nervous system, kind of left out the peripherals. I was like, well, that's a shame, and I really did them pretty. I went to town on that,
the
but
whole
also on the
autonomic.
autonomics, yeah.
And that's the big thing, in Melt, I'm always talking about this concept of trying to simplify the autonomic nervous system through what we call the neurocore. And what I mean by that is the central aspect of our form that is there from embryology on out, and it is doing for us the majority of our existence. It
Yeah.
is doing it.
And I put that on camera.
And you put it on camera.
Yeah, I did, because I mean, I didn't even know if I could find it. I didn't know what I like. In other words, we look at the books. You look at, there's no videos of the autonomic nervous system that you can watch of an actual autonomic nervous system from a given individual. So I went and got it, and that was I worked up a sweat to do it, and from my blessed gift. And so, boy, did he serve it up. My donor, I'm always in appreciation of my donors, and I don't know, it was the right body for the task, and the right connection, to make that happen.
And he's talking about the captain.
The captain was the subject, yes, of the Nerve Project,
whom you knew,
whom I knew personally, yeah, a friend, yeah, who donated his body for my work, knowing I do good by his gift.
And it was, I mean, I have to tell you, I felt like every time you would bring up some part of him, the sunlight would kind of start to brighten in the room for a moment. And I mean, like I would get the chills just feeling like the frequency of him coming through you, coming through the images, as if, I mean, really just, it was so palpable and, profound what you dissected out of him. And then he, also taking the tour of the vagus nerve and really seeing the connectivity of it, and the now it's going this way and it's coming back out and it's going over here.
Do a loop-de-loop and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And then the little wad of spaghetti at the end, which is just so...
By that, Sue means the solar plexus and the superior mesenteric plexus, into which the vagus nerve bundle sort of disappears in that mix. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it was a thorough tour. So, yeah, nerve tour meaning going all over the place with a talk, and nerve tour meaning going all over the place with a talk about the nerve. So touring people into the nervous system with the hope that you'll have a deeper connection with your own by the end of it. It's interesting. Rachel, my partner in all things, who is with me at all the talks, and we're traveling together on this tour, says she can kind of watch people change from when they get checked in to when there's the first break, and they're like they go and talk to her, and then the second break, and then at the end, and she's like, in that arc of the 5 hours, which goes by pretty quickly, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It seems like, what, a 5-hour lecture, but it does go by very quickly. And she says it's, and people tell me themselves, I feel transformed by the experience, which is very heartening to me, because that's kind of the goal.
It is. I think
it's
it
not
would
to
be life-changing.
teach vocabulary.
Even if you're not into anatomy. That's the thing, is I think the message of the whole process is this is you. Like, this is more the form of us. Again, the 98% of what goes on for us in a day is not voluntary. It's involuntarily happening through our nervous system.
Automatic processes.
Automatic processes.
Going on beneath the consciousness.
And Gil, where are you going next? Now that you're in Florida, you're touring
We're
through
cruising
Florida.
along the whole Gulf Coast at the moment. So we're on our way to Miami, and then we'll go up the coast up near Jupiter, Orlando, Jacksonville. Then we'll head to Savannah, Augusta, Atlanta. Then we'll go to South Carolina. We're cruising up the coast, the southern coast, and then we'll cut across the Midwest and the Deep South, go home, do some dissections in the lab there. Come back out for 35 cities in the Northeast, cover the lower Canada and the northeastern United States, Midwest, Eastern Seaboard, and then we'll wrap up the tour by going back out west. We've already been out west. We're going to go back out west and do the whole California coast. In total, I think we're going to hit 15 cities in California alone, 9 cities in Florida. It's a 110-city tour, which pales in comparison to Sue's
I did
150.
I did 150 different events, and it was... But mine was over the course of 18 months, and it was probably one of the best experiences, because I got to
see
really
different people,
right? and all walks of life, and so many curious minds, and
our beautiful country, which is quite amazing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And so again, you guys who are watching this, you don't wait another minute. Register for one of these sessions, see it live, sit there in this amazing experience of going through the body in such a way that I don't think it's ever been done. I think this is really the first of its kind. I can't imagine that anyone has ever done what you've done. And again, you're such a captivating storyteller of the process, and making it easy and digestible, even though all of the science terms and the science words and things, they're
just music going through the air while you watch the pictures.
Exactly. But what an incredible story, and an incredible contribution yet again. And also you have the Integral Anatomy website, and to become a Somanaut, I highly recommend you guys join this. It's $15 a month, and highly worth it. You will never get bored. You could watch every video 10 times and still be learning from the first one that you saw. And there's so much there. And again, Gil, I mean, like, your contribution is amazing. And I know that you've only just scratched the surface. I can't wait to see what your next process is.
I'm going to keep going.
Why not?
Why not?
I mean, we're here.
The next thing I do is I got to edit all the footage from the Nerve Project after the tour is over. I do all the editing
see how
myself.
This is here.
Yeah,
so.
It's kind of a...
This is what we do.
This is what we do.
Well, Gil, I mean, I'm forever grateful for your education and for your friendship, and just for your knowledge, and for sharing your gift to the world, because you make it a better place.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. Check out the Nerve Tour.
Nerve Tour.
Coming to where you are soon.
At gilhedley.com. That's where you go to sign up. You can misspell it. Google will get you there.
Indeed. I'll make sure to put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
See y'all soon.
Bye.